Good evening and welcome to the Inside Scope, where we go beyond the headlines to bring you in-depth analysis on the stories that matter most. I'm Jacqueline Kitamba, and tonight we take a closer look at the biggest issues shaping our world today. Stay with us for exclusive reports. You can join the conversation by following us on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Our handles are at Inside Scope, and the hashtag is #InsideScopeLive. Another day, another disappearance. Families across Kenya are living in fear as a wave of abductions continues to grip the nation. Despite growing public concerns, the government remains silent, offering little to no answers as to who is behind the abductions and the whereabouts of those who vanished. Gracious Aganda has the latest on this.
For many Kenyan families, the search for missing loved ones has turned into a nightmare with no end. One by one, people are vanishing, abducted in broad daylight, taken from their homes, or disappearing without a trace, and yet the silence from authorities is deafening. Despite overwhelming evidence and public outcry, government agencies have failed to provide answers.
Nakuru leo hii kwa sababu ya familia Brian ambaye alitekwa nyara na watu wa KWS, and what we know so far is that walimchukua kampiga wakamuumiza and is likely they killed him and ashaaga. Familia naomba kwamba ndio wapate closure, tupatieni mwili ama any that belongs to Brian, because we know very well Brian is dead.
The rising cases of enforced disappearance have sparked fear, leaving many wondering who is behind these abductions and why is no one being held accountable.
Mi nikiwa kama mzazi niko na uchungu mingi sana. Na ni Mungu ndiye amenipea nguvu ya kusimama hapa. Kama si Mungu sijui ningekuwa wapi saa hii. Hata mimi ningekuwa nimefuata Brian. Lakini kwa sababu ya Mungu amenipea nguvu na bado amenipea uhai, lazima nitafute justice for my son.
Human rights groups are calling for urgent action, demanding transparency and justice. Many suspect state involvement, but officials deny any responsibility, offering vague statements that provide little comfort to grieving families. For the families of the missing, every day is a battle against time, fear, and uncertainty. The question remains, when will Kenyans get answers? And more importantly, how many must disappear before action is taken? Gracious Aganda, reporting for the Inside Scope.
And now our correspondent, Gracious Aganda, joins us live. Gracious, what is the aftermath of the abductions that have been happening in the country since the Gen Z protests back in 2024? I mean, at the first time, it was the Gen Zs being abducted, but now anyone who seems to offend the government is one way or the other ends up being abducted. How are the families of those who have been abducted holding up, and what are they doing to try and find them?
Well, thank you very much, Jackie. What began as forced abduction has really exploded into the country, and the aftermath of all this is that the families are not keeping quiet. The families of the abductees are doing everything they can to ensure that their loved ones are brought to their home safe and sound. They've formed support groups. They've reached out to activists to ensure that their family members are brought to home safe and sound.
Have you been able to reach out to any of the affected families, and how are they coping? Have they been able to receive any form of help from either the police or any government body?
Yes, Jackie, I've spoke to the families of those abductees, and they're telling me that there's nothing they haven't done. They've knocked to each and every police station. They've knocked on government offices, but there's nothing that is being done to ensure that their loved ones are brought home safely and sound. So what they're doing is the activists are warning us that this is an escalation and a direct attack to the democracy of this country, and they will not keep quiet. They're going to be relentless in asking the government to release those who have been abducted, and they tell us that they're not going to stop at any cost until all those who have been abducted are brought home back safe and sound.
And have they been able to identify who is behind the abductions?
So thank you very much for the question, Jackie. While the government and politicians have vehemently denied being involved in the forced abductions, it's their responsibility to ensure that Kenyans are safe, participating in something that is a democratic right, such as participating in asking for answers in terms of government and leadership, shouldn't be a reason why people should be abducted. So despite the fact that the government has said that they're not responsible, the question on everyone's mind is who is responsible for these forced disappearances. Some of the abductors have been seen in unmarked vehicles. Some people who participated in some of the shootings, some were dressed in police uniform and some were not. So people are still wondering who is this and why are they untouchable in terms of being brought to books and to justice. So while the fear grows among Kenyans, everyone is wondering where can they turn to if the government is not willing to arrest the people responsible. So thank you very much, Jackie.
Well, Gracious, thank you so much for the insight. I'm sure the country continues to watch and hope that we will have answers soon. From September 2023 to August 2024, Kenya saw a 44% increase in abductions compared to the same time period from the previous year. According to the National Security Report, officials say there were 52 abductions in Kenya from September 2023 to August 2024, compared to 36 the previous year. As the number of abductions continues to rise and the fear grips the nation, the big question remains: who is behind the disappearance and why is the government silent? Tonight, we go beyond the headlines to break down the patterns, the implications, and the growing concerns surrounding these enforced disappearances. To help us unpack this, we are joined by a human rights expert who will help us analyze the possible forces at play, the legal and political ramifications, and what this means for the future of the democracy in Kenya. Thank you for joining us. Let's start with this. What do we know about the perpetrators of these abductions, and why has it been so difficult to get clear answers?
And how the perpetrators came to be is that it's linked to the criticisms of the government. These perpetrators would aim at, let's say, maybe activists or rather social media influencers who really criticize the government using resources they had. For example, social media platforms, you have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, which is now X. They'd use all those platforms to their advantage to criticize the government, to try and stop the passing of this finance bill. And so, you've asked what do we know about them. We know that we are not sure about who they are. They just appear in unmarked vehicles, pick up certain targets, and it's like they're sourcing certain answers from certain people.
How widespread is this issue? I mean, what are the patterns? What are some of the patterns that have been observed in these abductions? Are there any common tactics, locations, or perpetrators?
So, what patterns have I observed from these perpetrators? So, what they're doing is they're taking victims to the unknown. Like, they pick certain targets, their aim is to get answers. They pick certain targets and take them to places that are unknown. Another observation or a pattern is that they appear to be in a group and they use unmarked vehicles. Maybe a group of 3, 4, or if they're using many cars, they just have to be a group of people. And they have no uniform clothing, they just wear civilian clothing when they are going to abduct the abductee. Another observation is there are certain common locations, let's say Nairobi, and I feel the main target is those people who are really criticizing the government, like they're doing the most, maybe for example in social media platforms, or taking out to the streets, seeming like they're leading the protests, all those.
And to your knowledge, how has the government responded to these reports of abductions? I mean, has there been any official investigations or anything of the sort?
So, majorly, the government has rejected the claims that the abductions were state sanctioned. We'd start from the very topmost hierarchy, the president. We've seen a number of interviews whereby the president has been questioned about the same, and the answers haven't satisfied the people of Kenya. It has only caused so much uproar from his interviews rather than giving solutions or answers, clear answers to what exactly is going on. I'd also give an example of a government official who had an interview. He's called Kimani Ichung'wah. He repeatedly dismissed that those are political motivated attacks. He said he made certain comments that were really disturbing. I'd mentioned something like some of these abductees would lock themselves up in Airbnbs with their girlfriends. I didn't imagine someone doing that, and their parents are out there crying that their child is missing, and the government official would say that they're locked up in Airbnbs with their sexual partners. Some comments he made in that interview were so wrong, and he made it seem as if people were doing these abductions to make the government look bad, and they were only doing this for political gains, and not that the government is sending their people to handle these processes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your time. Moving on, at Daystar University, democracy was on full display this week as students turned out in large numbers to elect their new student council. With campaign posters lining the walkways and debates energizing the campus, the elections reflected the spirit of civic engagement amongst the Kenyan youth. Our reporter with the details.
The voting process organized by the Independent Electoral Commission of Daystar proceeded peacefully. Students from all faculties cast their vote for key positions including President, Vice President, Secretary General, and Finance Secretary. The atmosphere on Daystar's Athi River campus was electric as Daystar students exercised their right to vote, many for the first time. The campaigns, which ran for 2 weeks, were marked by lively debates, manifestos centered on student welfare, and a strong emphasis on leadership accountability. For many, this wasn't just about choosing leaders. It was about making their voices count in the governance of their university community. And the turnout reflected a growing political awareness among the youth, with over 70% registered students participating in the vote for a new record for Daystar elections.
We are going to work hand in hand also with the dean of and the HODs to ensure that everything is done in the right way. The enrolled voices are heard.
For many students, this election was a first-hand experience in civic participation, an exercise that goes beyond academics to prepare the future national leaders. Reporting from the Inside Scope, I am Marco Chin.
Coming up after the break, we look at the hidden crisis, a story of how drug use among university students continues to increase as the days go by. Stay with us.
Hey, grab me one too.
Welcome back. This is the Inside Scope on Global TV. You're with me, Jacqueline Kitamba. Remember, you can send in your thoughts on our social media pages at Inside Scope. The hashtag is Inside Scope Live. The global drug problem is a complex challenge affecting millions of people worldwide. According to the World Drug Report, there are nearly 300 million drug users globally. Recent studies suggest that a rising number of university students are engaging in drug and alcohol abuse, with reports indicating that cocaine, marijuana, and prescription pills are becoming alarmingly common on campuses. But the real question remains, what is fueling this crisis? Is it peer pressure, economic struggles, or a failing support system? And what are the consequences for the country's young scholars? Our reporter Joe Aura with the details.
For many university students, nightlife is a way to escape the pressures of academic life. But behind the flashing lights and loud music lies a dangerous trend, one that is destroying lives and futures. The numbers paint a grim picture. According to a recent NACADA report, over 50% of university students have experimented with drugs, with many progressing from alcohol to hard substances like marijuana, heroin, and cocaine. So, what is fueling this crisis?
One of the things is poverty. Another thing is also, as I mentioned there earlier, they are being influenced by colleagues. And some are just by choice, based on also their background where they have. One thing I might differ in my opinion is arresting the students. In my opinion, I differ with that, because where is the source? Where are these drugs coming from? So, first of all, let's get the root cause, the supplier. And the suppliers need also to be talked to, because maybe that is their way of living, earning their living. What business can they do apart from selling the drugs? Then there will be able to have a hygiene citizen for future generation.
Drug dealers operate freely on campus, using social media and student networks to distribute their products. Some students, struggling with the high cost of living and unemployment, turn to drug trafficking to make ends meet. The government has promised crackdowns, but many say enforcement is weak, and corruption within law enforcement allows the drug trade to thrive. With drug addiction ruining young lives, the question remains, are we doing enough to protect the future of Kenya's youth? As the fight against drug abuse amongst university students continues, one thing is clear. This is not just an individual problem, but a societal one. Unless urgent action is taken, Kenya risks losing an entire generation to addiction. The question remains, are we prepared to confront this crisis head-on? For Inside Scoop, I am Joe Aura.
Moving on, in today's digital world, children and teenagers are spending more time online than ever before. From social media platforms to gaming platforms, the internet has become an integral part of their daily lives. But with this increased connectivity comes a hidden danger: cyber predators, online bullies, and exposure to harmful content. Recent reports shows a disturbing rise in cases where children are being targeted through fake online profiles, manipulated into unsafe situations, and even falling victim to cyber exploitations. As parents struggle to monitor their children's online activities and tech companies claim that they are implementing safety measures, the question remains, are we doing enough to protect the most vulnerable? Tonight, our special report, The Dark Side of the Internet, investigates how easily children can fall into the hands of online predators and the measures being taken to combat this growing threat. Our correspondent, Nora Manya, with the details.
In Kenya and across the world, children are more digitally connected than ever. Social media, gaming platforms, and online forums offer them endless opportunities to learn, socialize, and explore. But with this digital freedom comes a dark reality, one that many parents remain unaware of. Through fake profiles, online predators disguise themselves as fellow teenagers, gaining the trust of unsuspecting children. Once that trust is established, these predators manipulate, exploit, and in some cases even lure children into dangerous situations.
I try just to encourage them to have screen time and play time. I don't try to be over strict, but I try to instill that there's screen time and there's time to use this device and there's time to read and there's time to play.
It is not just predators. Cyberbullying is another major concern. A recent study found that nearly 40% of Kenyan teenagers have experienced online harassment, with many suffering in silence. Social media companies claim that they are working to improve online safety, but critics argue that their efforts are not enough. Reports suggest that harmful content and predatory accounts are still slipping through the cracks, raising questions about whether these companies prioritize profits over protection. As the internet becomes a central part of children's lives, the risks continue to grow. But who is responsible for their safety? And what can be done to protect them? Reporting for Inside Scope, I'm Nora Manya.
To help us analyze the dangers facing children online and explore the possible solutions, I am joined by Rebecca Chan, a cybersecurity expert. Rebecca, thank you for joining us. So, from your experience, how vulnerable are children and the teenagers to online threats like cyber predators and cyberbullying?
I feel like as long as you're on this sea called the internet, you are vulnerable. But now it's different for our children and teenagers because they are yet to develop full critical skills and critical thinking to navigate this whole field and the internet. Because, children are just children at the end of the day. They're still learning, and considering typically you would expect a child to grow up in an environment of trust, and that same trust they take outside to the internet, and that's where they find people, predators, ready to take advantage of their open trust and, groom them and just take advantage of it, which necessarily, unavoidably just leads them into being victims of deception.
With tech companies, do you think that they are doing enough to ensure that children are safe online?
Not really, because, they actually have taken steps to kind of have child safety, but I feel like there's more that could be done in that line, because one, we have age restrictions and content moderation. If you post a comment, it is taken down. If you are a regular offender, you're getting reported and you can be kicked out. But I feel like there's more that these tech companies need to do, mostly in the age restriction and also with the moderation. There is more that they can do to it.
So what more should tech giants be doing to ensure that there's safety for children online, and are age restrictions and parental controls effective enough?
Now that's a good question. So for the tech companies, I feel like looking at age restriction, rather than just being like, what age were you born, where you select your date of birth and everything to put you as either underage or more, there could be more done, and that goes back to building from a customer experience. So what that looks like is looking at the needs and then design and then implementation before letting out any social media platform or any tech platform that you are releasing. So if you're looking at age restrictions, maybe we could have something like an ID verification. So if you say you're 18 or older, scan your ID so we can let you into the platform without necessarily restricting you as an underage person. So age restriction wise, much better could be done if we look back at the design of the platform and have a stricter enforcement to select your age. If you're looking at it from moderation, maybe having something that could, detect any harmful or content that you might want to release to be seen, to be verified by the platform before it can be released to an environment that has potential children and teenagers there. So a lot could be done.
With advancement in artificial intelligence, obviously, and data tracking. Do you see technology playing a bigger role in detecting and preventing online threats?
That is actually perfect. So I'm currently heading a team that we're working on having deepfake identifications for AI. So if you're looking at it from where it can step in, there is a lot that AI can actually prevent. You know, if there's, because you know, a lot of people, teenagers mostly liking to framing themselves. Because now you can use AI for a lot of things. I can take your photo, I can take my mom's photo and use AI and show that they were in this place doing this and that they're not doing. And that's when deepfake comes in. So AI can step in to actually, you know, scan back and go back to, if you're looking at things like C2PA, where it verifies photos from its original source. So if it is a video that shows person X was doing this and that, we can always go back, track it to AI where this photo was originally sourced for, and looking at the authenticity and if it's an actual photo or are we framing this person. So AI can come into that, and then in as much as a lot of regulation is done content-wise, AI can step in and actually prevent. Now that you are uploading your photo, let's have AI scan it and identify any potential harmful content that's being sent out before it can actually be uploaded. I think TikTok does this thing where it says your content is currently under verification before you can upload it. So that specific step, if we include AI to just review the content before we can put it out there, and then now having people having to report it, we can stop it before it gets there. So AI can do a lot.
And lastly, Rebecca, how do we strike a balance between internet freedom and regulation to ensure that there is children's safety without stifling the innovation?
I think one of the first things we can do is, looking at it from a parent or a guardian point of view, is having strategic guidance instead of just restriction. So have your child understand why it is you are trying to prevent them from excessively just being open to the internet. So instead of reprimanding them and being like, no, you cannot join Facebook, you cannot join Instagram, you cannot be on this platform, why don't you explain it to them that yes, you can be there to promote your talent, whatever it is you need to grow in. But there's this and this that happens there, and you need to be careful because not everyone is as nice as you would the people that are at home. Not everyone has your best interest at heart. So having a guidance standpoint there, parent-wise. Two, for the tech companies, let's do what we need to do before we can harbor children onto our platform. So design-wise, are the kids allowed to be there? What does that platform look like for an underage person as compared to a full-grown adult with full critical thinking? What are we doing to prevent this one? If we're looking at governments, there's a lot of things that the government could actually assist us with. If, for example, let me give, the government has a list of the sex offenders list. How about if we step in as the government, work hand in hand with the tech companies, release that list to them, and whoever is trying to join a social media platform that's full of children, you know, prevent them from joining. Or if they join it, let's have stricter monitoring on those specific accounts. What are they doing? Who are they talking to? Again, AI stepping in. If we're looking at it from, you know, AI needs to step in and look at this same sex offenders list as well. So we have person X has already been identified as a sex offender. Who knows? Maybe they change. We're not going to restrict them from being there altogether. But how about AI coming in to monitor their daily steps? The accounts they follow, are they mostly kids? What age gap are you following there as a sex offender? That can tell a lot from, you know, you're changing, and if you have, you know, if you're having a new perspective or you've changed, let's go back and look at it from your actions. So we need to work together, because just to look at it from a religious point of view as well, Matthew 18:6 says that whoever leads, not verbatim, but whoever, if anyone dares to guide these little ones into sin, they can as well tie a rope on their neck and throw themselves in the sea. So it is a shared responsibility here. It's not just for our parents, not just for the tech companies, not just for me and you. It's all of us together need to come hand in hand. We have a shared responsibility of looking after our younger ones.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your time. That is all the time that we had for you today. Thank you for staying with us. This has been the Inside Scope on Global TV with me, Jacqueline Kitamba. Join us next week for episode 2, where we will explore international migration, multilateralism, climate change, and the shift in human settlement. Until next time, stay connected.